Billions in property tax increases. It's November 5th, 2025, and these are your headlines. Well, Texas voters went to the polls yesterday and approved all 17 state constitutional amendments, including some measures designed to cut property taxes. But locally, many of those same voters signed off on billions of dollars in new school debt and permanent property tax hikes. Statewide turnout was about 14%, with just over 2.5 million Texans casting ballots. According to the Texas Bond Review Board, dozens of school districts asked voters to approve more than $10 billion in new bonds, each one labeled by law as a property tax increase. Among the biggest increases, Lamar CISD, where voters approved 3 bond measures totaling over $4 billion with interest. Richardson ISD also passed all 3 of its bonds, adding more than $2.2 billion in debt, even while closing campuses for declining enrollment. Meanwhile, voters in Magnolia, Van Alstyne, and Brownsville ISDs rejected their bond packages. In addition, more than 40 districts held voter approval tax ratification elections, known as VATers, to permanently raise school maintenance and operations tax rates. Those increases passed in Denton, Garland, Liberty Hill, Rockwall, and Temple ISDs. Now, during his State of the State address earlier this year, just back in February, Governor Greg Abbott urged lawmakers to require a 2/3 supermajority for any local tax hikes. He said, no approval, no new taxes. Well, the legislature never adopted that reform, leaving Texans to shoulder billions more in local tax increases, even as they voted for state-level tax relief. Republican activist Lee Wamsgans and Democrat Union leader Taylor Remmett are advancing to a runoff in the special election for Senate District 9. Former Southlake Mayor John Huffman finished a distant third. That race fills the unexpired term of former Senator Kelly Hancock, who resigned earlier this year to become acting comptroller. The district includes parts of northern Tarrant County. The campaign focused heavily on the growing influence of casino money in Texas politics. John Huffman had received hundreds of thousands of dollars from the Texas Sands PAC. That's the political arm of Las Vegas Sands, which is owned by billionaire Miriam Adelson. The group has poured millions into Texas races in recent years to push casino legalization. Huffman said he supported letting voters decide the issue through a statewide referendum, while Wamsgans strongly opposed expansion, calling it a detrimental influence on families and communities. She received endorsements from President Donald Trump and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who praised her as a proven conservative. Well, since no candidate received a majority, Wamsgans and Remmett will meet in a runoff to serve the remainder of Hancock's term before we have the primary elections in March and then the next general election in November of 2026.
But every day I run into something that I'm dealing with the county judge.
Judge Bray recused himself, but as we'll soon see, he couldn't resist reinserting himself into the process.
Signing notices, setting deadlines, accepting candidate applications, rejecting candidate applications. The dispute that ensued thereafter was centered on whether or not Judge Bray had the authority to do those things or should have been doing those things.
Head over to TexasScorecard.com today to watch our latest documentary, Kicking the Circle.
Houston officials are raising new concerns over ballooning overtime costs in key city departments, including police, fire, and solid waste, that have already exceeded budget expectations early in the fiscal year. At a city council budget meeting yesterday, leaders reviewed data showing that spending on overtime continues to climb, even as Houston faces a $158 million deficit. Last year, the city spent $137 million on overtime, more than double the $65 million originally budgeted. Controller Chris Hollins reported that the fire department overspent by 94%, police by 190%, and solid waste by 75%. And the trend hasn't slowed down. So far this year, HPD has already used 44% of its overtime budget, the fire department 45%, and solid waste 43%. Police Chief Noah Diaz says his department has created a new dashboard to track overtime spending and is expanding recruitment to help ease staffing shortages. Fire Chief Thomas Munoz said his department faces similar challenges due to lengthy training requirements. And Solid Waste Director Larius Hassan warned that a new trash fee may be needed if the shortages persist, saying that the city keeps growing and our department only has 398 people, and they're saying that we're going to need more resources. Mayor John Whitmire has continued to oppose any tax increases. For more of today's stories, go to TexasScorecard.com.